Here. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, welcome to the meeting, everyone, again. It's Monday, November 25th. The first item is public hearing in reference to the proposed 2025 operating budget and capital improvement plan. This has been advertised in the newspaper, the Observer Reporter, and the Township website. Mr. Tibet.
All right, thank you. Of all the actions that taken by council in any given year, none is more important, obviously, than the adoption of the budget. The budget is a document that transforms ideas into actions and ultimately acts as the strategic plan for the upcoming year. When discussing the proposed budget, the first question we always get asked by residents is, will there be a tax increase? And I'm pleased to announce that there will not be a tax increase in 2025. There are, however, significant challenges ahead that may result in the need for a future increase, including the purchase of a new fire truck, a need for increased staffing in the fire and police department, increased support for emergency medical services, as well as compliance with environmental mandates. However, with that being said, it's important to remember that the ability of the municipal government to achieve its goals is determined by its capacity to raise funds. So in 2025, it's estimated that 54% of Peters Township's total revenues of approximately $29,450,000 will be derived from taxes. The township anticipates collecting almost $15,829,000 in tax revenue. Of the taxes levied, earned income tax and the real estate tax are the most significant. The earned income tax is a 0.5% tax levied against the wages earned by township residents, and in 2025, earned income tax will account for roughly $7,636,000, or 48% of taxes levied. The real estate tax is a tax levied against the assessed valuation of real estate property located in the township. The responsibility of establishing the assessed value of properties rests with Washington County. The budgeted receipt from the real estate tax assumes property tax millage of 1.7 mils, the same rate levied in 2024. And in 2025, the real estate tax will account for $5,850,840, or 37% of overall taxes levied. The real estate transfer tax, as its name suggests, is a tax levied on the value of all real estate transferred in Peters Township. The township levy is 1% of the value of property transferred. In 2025, revenues from the real estate transfer tax are estimated to be $1.9 million. We'll be carefully monitoring the real estate transfer tax in 2025, obviously, because receipts from this tax are directly impacted by mortgage rates and the housing market. In 2025, the township estimates that revenues from non-tax sources will equal $13,622,000, which is 46% of the total revenue collected. Charges for services equaled $5,170,000, or 38% of all non-tax revenue. In 2025, Peters Township anticipates receiving grants totaling $6,888,000, or 51% of the township's non-tax revenue. An important ongoing source for grant funds for Peters Township is the Pennsylvania State Liquid Fuels Program. Under this program, the state provides individual municipalities with a portion of the monies derived through the imposition of a statewide gas tax. In 2012, Peters Township began receiving a grant allocation under the National Natural Gas Impact Fee Program, and in 2025, revenues from this source are budgeted to be $349,000. The township also receives funds under the Foreign Fire and Foreign Casualty Insurance programs as well. Funds received under the Foreign Fire Fund program are mandated by the state of Pennsylvania to be turned over to the Peters Township Volunteer Fire Company Relief Association. In addition to these block grants, the township is the recipient of significant categorical grants that will offset costs associated with 2025 capital projects in the parks. Within the chart of accounts promulgated by the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, municipalities are encouraged to group program expenses into one of four categories. These program categories are general government, protection to persons and property, public works, and culture and recreation. In addition to those 4 program areas, the budget includes expenses related to debt service and insurance and employee benefits. Total budgeted expenses for 2025 are approximately $43,777,000. General government expenditures represent costs associated with back office business functions of the township, such as accounting, payroll, tax collection, engineering, network administration, and managerial expenses. In 2025, $2,443,000 is appropriated for general government expenditures, and this represents 6% of the overall budget. Expenses associated with protection to persons and property account for $8,540,000, or 20% of the total expenses in 2025. Programs contained in the public safety category include police services, fire services, emergency medical services, animal control, planning, zoning, and building inspection. Public works expenses in 2025 are estimated to be $10,336,000, or 24% of total expenses. A significant portion of this amount is associated with capital improvements, including the resurfacing of roadways and the rehabilitation of storm sewers. The 2025 budget includes appropriations for the extension of Manor Way, as well as a connection into Peterswood Park from Sugar Camp Road. Programs included under the category of culture and recreation are the Peters Township Library, Parks and Recreation, and Peters Township Community Television. In 2025, expenses for culture and recreation are estimated to be $15 million, or 38% of the expenses. This is higher than normal, as you are all aware, due to the expenses that result in significant one-time capital projects. Grant funding in the amount of $4,356,000 offset a portion of that cost. Municipal budgets are driven by expenditures for capital projects as well as personnel. The 2025 budget contains an ambitious capital improvements plan with expenditures for capital projects totaling $18,455,000 and account for 42% of all expenditures. Several of these projects, such as road paving and vehicle purchases, are repetitive annual capital projects. In addition, the proposed budget appropriates funds for 3 significant capital improvement initiatives, all of which involve improvements to Peters Township parks. With financial assistance in the form of $1,150,000 in grant funding, Peters Township is undertaking a series of improvements to 2 baseball fields in Peterswood Park. These improvements include replacing the existing sports lighting system, the replacement of the existing dugouts and press boxes, as well as the installation of synthetic turf infields. The township is the recipient of $3,200,000 in grants for the purpose of constructing Phase 1 of the Peters Township Aquatic Center. Phase 1 of the center, which will be constructed in Rolling Hills Park, includes a splash pad, a support building, and necessary infrastructure improvements. This project is under contract and construction has just begun. The third project is Phase 2 of the Rolling Hills Master Plan. As envisioned, this project includes outdoor basketball courts, a deck hockey facility, a dog park, and a restroom facility. And while this project is provided for in the budget, the path forward will be decided in the spring of 2025. The budget does anticipate the hiring of a social worker in 2025. This position is being created in part to support the efforts of the police department. By the nature of their work, police officers focus on resolving situations. Oftentimes, this means that the underlying social or medical problem is left unaddressed, and as a result, police officers are frequently addressing the same situation over and over again. And the hope is that a social worker can assist residents with problem resolution, and in doing so, relieve police officers of having to address recurring issues. The cost associated with this position will be partially offset by a grant from Washington County. The township will also hire an additional part-time staff in the Parks and Recreation Department. and these additional employees will be utilized to staff Rolling Hills Park. And so, in general conclusion, the Peters Township general and capital budget process commences in earnest, as you are all aware, beginning in late July of each year, marking the beginning of a collaborative effort that requires significant time and dedication from our staff. This process is essential to ensure that the budget is not only comprehensive, but also aligns with the needs and priorities of our community. The successful execution of this process is made possible through close collaboration between administrative staff and department heads who work tirelessly to gather data, assess needs, and formulate a budget that reflects our collective vision for the township. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks specifically to Ms. Aiken and Mr. Lauer for their hard work in the preparation of the 2025 budget. Their commitment to excellence and attention to detail have been instrumental in navigating the complexities of this budget formulation. Additionally, I'd also like to acknowledge the invaluable contributions of all of our department heads, whose insights and expertise have enriched the budget development process and ensured that we address the diverse needs of our residents. And lastly, and most importantly, I do want to express my appreciation to Peters Township Council for their dedication and guidance throughout this process. I know it's arduous. Their leadership has been crucial in shaping a budget that not only meets the immediate needs of our community, but also positions us for future success. And thanks to their efforts, I believe we're poised yet again to provide exemplary services to the residents of Peters Township in the upcoming year, reinforcing our commitment to enhancing the quality of life for all who call Peters Township home. And with that, myself, Ms. Aiken, are happy to answer any questions that you might have related to this budget.
Thank you, Mr. Tivett. Appreciate the lengthy report, but very outstanding one. Thank you. Any comments?
I have a couple questions. Some of the budget items are for the police are paid through from monies that we got from some task force.
From the DEA task
force. Are those numbers reflected in those expenditures?
They are, yes.
Okay. And how confident does the administration believe that those purchases fall within the parameters of that grant or whatever it was that we received from the federal government? I mean, we're not at any risk here that we're not spending the money the way it's supposed to be spent based on what the government told us to do.
No, and as a matter of fact, and Tracy might be able to speak to this as well, we have to inform them of what our expenditures through that fund will be and get prior approval for that. So they audit to make sure that we're spending that money appropriately. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. And both, I filed the annual reports. I had to go through training. The police force had to go through training, annual refresher. So we've got, they're very good about providing the guidelines very clearly on what it can be spent for.
Okay. The other question I have is that, and this is, I think, mostly for people that are watching this at home, but you know, if you look at the chart, we're proposing a budget of like $29,458,000 and change, but we have proposed expenditures of, you know, roughly 13.4 more. And could you just clarify, like, where that discrepancy is, and for people at home or people that are here, and
Sure.
that really doesn't mean we're running in the red.
Right. So a lot of that is debt service and possibly taking on more additional debt in 2025 for Rolling Hills Phase 2. As I mentioned, that is a discussion that council and administration is going to have in 2025. You know, the rough estimate for that project is about $7.5 million. So a lot of the additional expenditures compared to revenue would be borrowing funds for those projects.
And some of the projects won't be completed.
Correct.
Or won't be commenced or whatever. We decide not to do them or get further. I just wanted to clarify that, because, you know, anybody looking at this thinks, oh my gosh, they're $13 million in the hole, you know.
And
Thank you.
Just to clarify, that $7 million and change would be for Phase 2, which would be the basketball courts.
Correct. The deck hockey, the restroom, and the pickleball.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
None here.
Any from the audience? Okay, if not,
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
7-0, Mr. Tovett. Public hearing is now closed. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help. Seeing no special reports, approved the minutes Peters Township Council meeting held on November 11th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0, Mr. Tovett. Approve the transcript of the public hearing held on November 11th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7-0 again, Mr. Tovett. Audience comments, limit up to 5 minutes on non-agenda items unless extended by council. Anyone from the audience have any comments? Seeing none. New business, variance issued from 440-1204 of the zoning ordinance issued to allow for the creation of a flag lot at 241 Thomas Road.
So Mr. Kennedy is in attendance at the meeting tonight. He's asked that this item be removed from the agenda, so we can move on to the second item of the meeting tonight.
And just so you know, I spoke to Mr. Kennedy's counsel and to Mr. Kennedy briefly before the meeting, and so we'll continue those discussions with both him and his lawyer.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just move
Thank
on.
you. Approval for recording purposes, Rose Garden Estates, plan number 2, as shown as drawings prepared by Keystone Surveying and Mapping, Inc., dated August 30, 2024, for Rose Garden Pool Association.
So on September 25th, 2024, the Rose Garden Pool Association submitted a subdivision application for property they own along Canterbury Lane. The property is currently comprised of 3 parcels on the top of your screen. These 3 here and equal about 10.8 acres. The subdivision plan creates 4 parcels seen on the lower portion of this slide out of the 3 existing parcels. A new lot line is proposed south of the Rose Garden Pool Association. The site that would create proposed lot 1 out of the southern 2.6 acres down here. Portions of the northern end of this parcel would be transferred to existing lots 25 and 15. And additionally, approximately 2,005 square feet of existing lot 25 would be transferred to existing lot 15 to create lots 3 and 4 on the bottom here. And the remainder of existing lot A4 would be given the designation of Lot 2. At their Planning Commission meeting on November 14th, 2024, the Planning Commission recommended approval for this plan. It is my recommendation that Peters Township Council approves the Rose Garden Estates Plan Number 2 as shown on drawings prepared by Keystone Surveying and Mapping, Inc., dated August 30th, 2024 for Rose Garden Pool Association.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
So will I.
We have 5 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstain. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Tovett. Next item, request for departure regulations contained in the Township subdivision and land development ordinance restricting the creation of a new lot along a collector street.
So items C and D are going to run concurrently as the subdivision that's requested in item D is not possible without this departure in item C. So Tracy and Yohe-VanVorrhis own a 1.03 acre parcel located at 227 Bebout Road. Kimberly Gales Dunn, on behalf of the owners, is seeking a departure from the Township subdivision and land development ordinance so they can create a new lot along the collector street. Again, on November 14th, 2024, the Planning Commission took action to recommend approval of the departure. It's obvious from this picture there are no site distance issues that we have or concerns with this location. And furthermore, the new half-acre lot is consistent with the existing development So it is my recommendation that Peters Township Council approves the departure from regulations contained in the Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance restricting the creation of a new lot along a collector street as shown on the proposed Yohe-VanVorrhis subdivision.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second.
I have a question. The ordinance says shall not, and what authority do we have to change that, to waive it? I mean, doesn't that defeat the whole purpose of having an ordinance that says what it says? I don't know, I read it in here. It says, I thought it says shall. Like, where's the basis for our departure?
Part of our sale, though, actually has a language in there that allows for departures from the ordinance if the governing body deems it appropriate because of some type of unique circumstance. And then it won't provide, have any negative detriment to the community itself.
Thank you.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0, Mr. Tobin.
And this next one is just approving the subdivision plan, right?
That's correct. And there's
All right,
a
I'll make a motion that council approve for recording purposes the Yohe-VanVorrhis subdivision as shown on drawings prepared by J.R. Gales and Associates, Inc., dated August 19, 2024, for Yohe-VanVorrhis.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0, Mr. Tobin. Next item, ordinance amending Peters Township Code of Ordinance, Chapter 299, Park Rules, Section 15, Operating Policy.
So it was recently discovered that within the ordinance that regulates park hours, the terms dusk and dawn were misappropriately flipped, which technically only allowed persons in our parks at nighttime. So we need to correct that. We looked back to see when this possibly could have happened, and our ordinances back to 1998 still showed the mistake. So
we've all been
here-
violating the ordinance all these years.
Right. So the proposed ordinance corrects this error, and if adopted, shall read, persons may use any unlighted park facility or area from sunrise to sunset as determined by the U.S. Naval Observatory for Pittsburgh unless specifically stated below. You can't get much clearer than that. So it's my recommendation that Peters Township Council approve ordinance number 908, amending the Peters Township Code of Ordinances, Chapter 299, Park Rules, Section 15.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0, Mr. Tobin. Next item, authorize appropriate township officials to execute a labor contract with Teamsters Local 205 covering Peters Township police officers.
So as previously discussed with council, Mr. Lauer and myself have been negotiating with the police for some time during the 2024 year to come up with a new collective bargaining agreement with terms. We have reached a tentative 5-year labor agreement with Teamsters Local 205, the union that represents Peters Township police officers, and it has been approved by the union and signed already. The most significant provisions of the contract are pay increases of 3.5% in year 1, 3% in years 2, 3, and 4, and then another 3.5% increase in year 5. It also establishes a pay differential for detectives of 2.5%. It increases the starting pay for new hires from 80% to 85% of the full officer rate of pay. It reduces post-retirement health care benefits from 10 years to 1 year for new hires. It eliminates the restriction on scheduling and also eliminates the health care opt-out payments from pension calculations. Both Mr. Lauer and myself feel like we have bargained well with the police, and we think this is a fair contract. And it is therefore my recommendation that Peters Township Council authorizes the appropriate township official to execute a 5-year labor contract with Teamsters Local 205 covering compensation and working conditions for Peters Township police officers.
So moved.
Motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0, Mr. Tibbet. Payroll and bills?
Yeah, prior to this evening's meeting, I reviewed the payroll and bills, found everything to be in order, and moved to approve those.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0, Mr. Tibbet. Correspondence, we need to bring up the notice of appeal for the zoning hearing board.
Yeah, I just want to make reference that the decision that placed the generator in the front yard of 201 Green Valley was approved by the zoning hearing board. It's been appealed by the neighbors, and so that's just an update for you.
Did they show up at the hearing? Did they intervene and all that stuff? Or how did that
I
come
believe they did.
Okay.
Now, when a situation like this, does the township take a position on those appeals? Do we go?
No, we don't have to. We have the ability to intervene if we want, but we typically don't.
In this case, I think we should.
I agree, because I know exactly this, because as you know, my dad built every house in Green Meadows, and I know exactly the issue here. This house, the cul-de-sac is in the front yard, so or a portion of their front yard, is cut off by the cul-de-sac. So if the generator would sit on a normal front yard, it would be 50 feet from the road. And because the cul-de-sac starts to turn into the front yard, I think they only end up, 41 feet or something like that away from the road. That was the purpose of the variance. But
Roughly.
I don't want to get into neighborhood politics or whatever, but I mean, to me, this is a situation where a variance is warranted. It's certainly not the property owner's fault that their front yard gets cut off by the cul-de-sac, and I think we should intervene in this one. And I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. I think we should have a determination, at least, that under those specific circumstances that exist here, that is the proper basis for a variance. I mean, I don't see how it couldn't be.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0, Mr. Tibbet.
And the only other correspondence that I wanted to reference was that letter from Washington County. I mentioned possibly bringing on somebody in the police department to assist with health and wellness cases. They have provided funding and promised that funding for a social worker for a 5-year period. We're hoping that extends well beyond 5 years, but that's what they've been able to commit to at that time. So that letter is also in your docket.
What's the amount? It doesn't say in the letter, but I know we talked about it.
It's 40 and change, 40,000. Yeah.
And this has been also going on in Hampton Township, and I think
There's several North Hills communities that have social workers that assist their police departments, and we've sat down with Hampton's chief and social worker as a staff, and our police have also gone up for some training, and I can tell you our chief believes that a social worker could really hit the ground running here in Peters Township with no problem. He is all for that.
yeah, I think this is going to be a very successful.
Yeah.
So thank you. Anyone want to bring anything up under reports? Hearing none. Advisory boards, appointments, and attendance.
The only thing to mention there, we've only had 2 individuals that are not interested in staying on their current boards, a member from the zoning hearing board and a member from the EQB. Everyone else that we've reached out to is interested in continuing to serve.
Well, that's good. That'll keep the interviews short next January.
Do we have any update on the baseball deal and the turfing?
There will be a contract before you at our first meeting in December from Forest Turf for Field 1.
Okay.
We weren't able to get that from them in time for tonight's meeting.
Okay. And then I had a question about the tree in the roundabout. When will that be lit?
So it's up. I'm sure you've seen. It's up and ready to go. I think we're going to light it the same time we kind of kick off our quote-unquote light-up night on December 6th, when we light the tree next to the library and have our holiday kickoff event.
Great. Thank you. Any other items for the next agenda? No, hearing none, motion to adjourn.
So move second.